What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Chuck Norris review. Today we're taking a look at probably a lesser-known Chuck Norris film, kind of a later stage one. Chuck was in his 60s when he made this one. The Cutter from 2005, directed by William Tannen. This is an hour and 32 minutes long. I just watched it on Tubi. This co-stars Joanna Pecula, Daniel Bernhardt, and Bernie Capel, who many people know from The Love Boat. And Chuck in this one plays an ex-cop, now private investigator, who ends up helping a woman look for her uncle, who's been kidnapped because of his skill as a diamond cutter. The villains in this have stolen a very rare, almost sort of a biblically connected item, which has many jewels, and they want this diamond cutter to recut them. Okay, so they kidnap him, and they attempt to kidnap his niece, played by Joanna Pecula. Bernie Capel plays the diamond cutter named Isaac Teller. Chuck Norris just happens to be there and interrupts that kidnapping and kind of gets himself embroiled in this whole mess. He has a sort of a love-hate relationship with the local police department. He used to be one of them, but he's Chuck Norris. He kind of does things his own way, and he eventually sort of tracks down where the uncle is, and there's a very mysterious figure played by Daniel Bernhardt, who's very good with different accents and like charming people and getting information out of people, but he's also quite ruthless, and he's ends up being the main villain of the story, although there is somebody sort of pulling the strings back in Austria. Both that character and Bernie Capel's Isaac Teller character have a connection that goes all the way back to World War II, so I won't really get into that. I don't want to spoil anything. Elements of this plot were kind of clever. It was kind of interesting. Chuck is pretty good in this. He's got some wisecracks. He seems to be, he's pretty subdued in this. There's some pretty good fight scenes. I will tell you, he does get his ass beat at least once in this movie. And, he was never really afraid of that. And he, when he was on the Letterman show talking about Code of Silence years ago, he talked about how he wanted that fight scene to be more realistic because he was going up against like 10 guys. Well, in this one, it's just, it's not 10 guys, but he decides to take his lumps in this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And eventually, of course, I think that they're going to have a rematch, and I think you could probably figure out how that's going to go. A lot of this film is kind of a procedural hunting down for the uncle. The bad guy takes a taxi cab. The taxi driver tries to make small talk. The guy tells him to shut up. Then Chuck catches up with the taxi driver, gets some information out of him. There's about 20 minutes. About 3/4 of the way through this that are like that, and it's like, it kind of goes on, and it's like we see every step. Chuck's just one step behind him, the guy. Well, finally, he tracks him down as the guy's getting on a bus. Chuck gets on, he sits next to him, and they both know who each other are. And Chuck actually reworks one of his old lines from another movie, and they have a fight, and it's pretty good. And, there's a few more fights and chase sequences and so forth. Overall, it's pretty good. It had a very sort of almost like a made-for-TV movie feel or something. Some of the editing, it was like quick cuts and zoom in, quick cut and zoom in, with swish noises. It kind of reminded me of some of the Saw sequels, the way the editing was in parts of it. Bernie Capel is very good. I mean, he's a great actor, so he's very good as is Joanna Pecula. I mean, they're both very good. And Daniel Bernhardt as the villain is very good. He's a guy, you've probably seen him a bunch of times, or at least seen movies that he's done stunts for. You never really realized who he is. He's actually the guy that's playing Deathstalker in the new Deathstalker remake, which came out in October. Okay, I might actually check that out on Amazon. But it looks like finally after, I don't know, maybe 20 to 30 years in the business, he's getting a pretty sizable starring role where he could show off his moves. So yeah, he was a good villain. Overall, it was just kind of maybe it would have worked a little bit better earlier in Chuck's career. I don't know. It was okay. It just kind of an interesting movie. Like I said, it had almost like a weird kind of a feel to it. Yeah, have you seen The Cutter? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and come back again next time for some more Chuck Norris reviews. Later.